Hopeless love affairs, Nazi king, pissed up princess, the crown has everything, and this is how it works. Right, so let's first of all, the theme for me of the TV series The Crown is retaining yourself when you're expected to devote yourself 100% to something else. So let's just map those two things onto the table. You've got devoting yourself to the crown, and you've got devoting yourself to the more human side of yourself, okay, right? And these are the two sort of opposites that basically all the characters are trying to wrestle with. So we start off with Edward VIII, back in 1936. He had a bit of a checkered past with the old Nazis, but anyway, he basically went and fell in love with a divorcee, Wallis Simpson, and he was told, you can't devote yourself to the crown if you're going to devote yourself to a divorcee. So basically, mate, you need to bugger off over here and be with her, which put poor old George VI, guy with a bit of a stammer. He was then thrown to the spotlight because he was his younger brother, and he had to then become king. Poor guy, 1936 to 1952. What he did was he groomed his young two children. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? But anyway, here's Princess Elizabeth and there's Princess Margaret. And it basically meant that Princess Elizabeth was basically told, one day you're going to become queen. You thought you were just going to live the happy life, and you're going to have to come over here. As she's sort of making her way slowly over there to prepare herself one day to become queen, he then goes and dies, 1952, which then means suddenly she becomes queen. And the interesting thing about season 1 of The Crown is that she actually, that's the queen when she's older, okay, she does it rather well. She actually takes that position and devotes herself pretty much 100% to this, to the crown, and sort of leaves her humanity to the side, which is kind of okay, apart from a few occasions. However, her poor husband, Prince Philip, who she's just married, gets a bit narky, really, because he doesn't like the fact that his wife is devoting herself 100% to something else when he thought that she was devoting herself to him. He struggles with that, and there's rumours that he's actually having more worldly pleasures somewhere else. But what he does is he finds a sort of happy medium, and he basically sort of orbits her like a satellite. However, we talked about Princess Margaret. Here she is. When Princess Margaret grew up, she basically was told that you can't be in love with the divorcee, because they're full of it, aren't they? Peter Townsend, RAF pilot, Second World War. And you can't be with him because you're a princess, but you can't be queen. So basically, you've just got to sit at the queen's feet, devote yourself to the queen, do not devote yourself to yourself, and have a bit of a tragic life, which ended up with her drinking a little bit too much and burning her feet in the bath. You then got lovely Prince Charles, who was back in the day before he became king. Prince Charles does a really weird thing, because what he does is he basically tries to do both. He says, look, come on, we've got to modernise the crown, and we've got to be able to be human, and we've also got to be dutiful to the crown at the same time. So he kind of sort of runs between the two. Though there's probably a good reason why he's running between the two, because dear old Charlie boy is having a fling with Camilla Parker Bowles, who's very much on the human side. So sometimes he's going over here to be with Camilla to sort of favour his human side, and sometimes he's running in this direction to say, hey, one day I need to be king, and we should all be dutiful to the crown. Here's poor old Princess Diana, who actually, very much like the Queen, she actually makes her way slowly, becoming dutiful to the crown, often bumping into old Charlie boy, who's come the other direction, who's basically saying to her, hey, you need to be more dutiful to the crown, while he's buggering off to go and slip one to Camilla. So basically what you've got is you've got a setup where every single character is trying to reconcile the irreconcilable. They're either trying to find the happy balance between duty to the crown or duty to themselves. And I would say the majority, apart from maybe the Queen and in some ways Prince Philip, are all failing absolutely miserably. So what is absolute genius with the writing is that Peter Morgan comes along and he takes historical events, Suez, the assassination of JFK, the death of Churchill, and the Aberfan disaster, and he uses those historical events as sort of plot devices, and those plots become the vehicle by which we explore this thematic question of whether or not is able to reconcile between devotion to the crown or devotion to yourself. In other words, being caught between a rock and a hard place.